I'm Gray Thompson. Don't boycott college game day. You're listening to The Gray Zone.
The Gray Zone.
This week, I'm joined once again by one of my favorite Georgia Bulldog fans, Matt McGahee. Georgia Matt.
What's going on?
Hey, brother. Thanks for doing this. I had two guests cancel last minute again this week. And so here we are once again at the salubrious King Tut Grill in Simpsonville. Worth the trip, worth the destination. Matt, this is about as far out of my way as I go outside of going out of town. And it's worth
greatly
it.
appreciated. And the food is definitely worth it, as is the environment.
It's a good excuse for me, frankly, to come out here. So, once again, thank you. And thanks to King Tut Grill. What's the name of this road again? Look, you can find King Tut Grill. They're online. They're on social. I think it's kingtutgrill.com, but you can find
on
them.
Southeast Main in Simpsonville.
There you go. It's easy to find. There's a big sign. There's a gorgeous golden Cadillac with the name on it. I'm sorry. I'm staring at it right now. That's why I'm not talking. I love this place. Their food is amazing. If you like wings, these wings are absolutely phenomenal. They're smoked and then grilled. I know I've talked about this before.
They're crispy.
They're so crispy. And they're so good. And they're meaty. You can tell they're not frozen. You don't freeze wings that are this good and big. Enough said about that, I guess. Thank you to Warner, Georgia alum, all-star, former American wrestler at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. Thank you for everything you do here and for Simpsonville and for sports fans in the upstate of South Carolina. And for me and Matt for recording the Gray Zone here. We love it. Thank you. We're also brought to you by, keep eating Matt, by iONGreenville.net. Go get the iONGreenville app. Do your pick'ems. Try to beat me. I did pretty good last week. Pretty good, I guess, is relative to how bad I've been doing most of this year against the spread. 2019 has been an odd year for that stuff. But it's still fun. Go to iONGreenville, find out where to go and what to do in the upstate all the time. Find the Gray Zone in there, among other local upstate podcasts, and terrific stuff. Go to fetgreenville.com. Read the #1 magazine in Greenville, South Carolina. It's all digital. It's all free. It's all good. This weekend, we're going to Vulcanalia at the Artistry Workshops and Gallery in the village of West Greenville. I cannot wait. It's the party of the year. It's one of those few things that I will miss college football for deliberately, albeit this is a clunker of a weekend for most games, and the good ones are on at noon. So I'm okay with it. And Fed it be. Also, we are produced by GVL Media. If you like this podcast, or if you don't like this podcast and therefore want to do one of your own that's much, much better, congratulations. You're in luck. Call me. Call GVL Media. Go to gvlmedia.online. Hit me up on Twitter at Color of Gray. That's Grey. On Instagram at Color of Gray Studio. And we'll help you get it done. We can do call-ins, video, everything you need for a podcast. Green screen, we got it all. Give me a shout. Give them a shout. We'll make it work. gvlmedia.online. We're also brought to you by Georgia Bulldogs, who give birth to the ever-living Matt McGahee.
And greatness.
You done eating?
Yeah.
I mean to rush you.
No, you're good, man. I'm good.
That sandwich, by the way.
Oh,
so
that was so good.
I'm full from the lunch I had before I got here.
You should have ordered one.
I was still hungry looking at that thing.
It was so good.
What's wrong with me?
Lots of things, but we'll talk about that.
At least they didn't break my hip, right?
At least your name's not Bennett.
Bennett
Just
didn't
kidding.
break
That's
his
his
hip
twin
either.
brother, if you don't know.
Yeah. Roll Tide, brother. Let's start with that. Tua broke his hip.
It's terrible.
Tua Tagovailoa playing near the end of the first half on the road against their nearest geographical opponent, Mississippi State. Gorgeous day in Stark, Vegas. Clango was loud. You got to give him credit for the bells alone. That was really cool. I love the pageantry. And you know what, the honest truth, we talked about this a little bit before. Everybody shows up as an opponent for the best teams. And Alabama has been consistently one of the arguably best teams in the last decade or so that you get these fun games where the sounds are a little bit louder and the fans are a little bit crazier. And the weather, when it's perfect like this, just feels a little bit even more perfect. Clemson gets it too, just not as often this year. Ohio State's going to get it again this weekend with Penn State. This was a day kind of to celebrate, and it became a day that we'll never forget for all the wrong reasons. Namely because Tua dislocated his hip, maybe broke his hip bone.
And most likely done for the University of Alabama.
Did break his nose.
Oh, did he? Wow.
Yeah, he had to have surgery on it. Oh, Matt, you know what?
I knew he was bleeding, but I didn't know he.
This Saturday, Alabama hosts Western Carolina. It's senior day. Yeah, I know. It's a wash-away game, but they were good a few years ago. Don't forget, wasn't it?
No.
They aren't right now.
Are they the Catamounts? Is that right?
It's
Something
senior
like that.
day in Tuscaloosa. Tua's going to be there. Not a senior, but he's going to be there. My guess is he's obviously going to have to be in a wheelchair or something. Hopefully he's not in one of those like beds that recline the wrong way, like we saw Hugh Freeze at Liberty, like up in the press box facing a monitor away from it. That was I don't like to see that. But what you're going to see his nose all jacked up because he had to have it fixed.
I mean,
that
look,
dude got wrecked on a single play.
They might as well consider him a senior because I can't imagine after all the injuries he suffered at Alabama, him returning for a senior year when he can go make his money in the NFL.
True.
And I think that's what he should do, honestly, because I think I think the NFL needs a guy with the character of Tua right now. I think they just need that because
I think the NFL has more characters like that than they've had in a long time. It's starting to define the sport. You know, with guys like Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes.
True. That's fair.
Carson Wentz. Like these
Nick
are
Foles.
not just good guys; they represent good, and they don't really get in trouble.
Well, I mean, and even Tom Brady to an extent, he's not a bad guy.
Look, Tom Brady is a perfect example.
So,
Thank you for bringing that up. I love Tom Brady. Triggering everybody already again, but I don't care.
Well, Matt Ryan's a good guy too.
I love the way he behaves.
For the most part.
I don't like the way Matt Ryan plays football.
Well,
sometimes.
I think a lot of that's his offensive line, but yeah.
Yeah, but to be fair, he's also not very public.
He's not.
Right? Like Deshaun Watson
kind of a quiet guy.
Does things that you can't not put on your website, right? That you have to talk about because they're fascinating and they don't hurt anybody. They're actually really compelling football talks. But anyway.
I just think it's sad because we've probably seen the last of Tua at Alabama and then two, and I hate to say it, but I think it's going to cost you a win at Auburn, not having Tua to play.
You want to talk about that real quick? Because I don't.
Sure. I mean, that's all I want to say about it.
No.
I mean, I just think it's going to be tough to get a win there without Tua.
I think these receivers, though, are so good.
They are, but I just don't know. I mean, I just don't know.
No. I'm not saying I know either. Mac Jones does have a talent. He has a tendency to sling the ball, which reminds me of Trevor in his freshman year. He would just throw. He has this ability to throw it faster and harder than anybody. Good point, I guess. The criticism against Trevor was that he was always going for the long ball. Well, part of the problem is that guy, he was having trouble with touch, like slowing the ball down, because he can make a decision, sling the ball out, and get it there 50, 60 yards.
To me, you don't long ball your receivers with their yak stats. You just don't. I mean, those guys are so good after the catch. You don't need to throw the bomb. You can throw a 8-yard pass and Judy's going to take it 23 yards. You know what I mean?
That's the finesse, though. You got to add traction control to your Ferrari.
But that's who they are. I mean, that's who your receivers are, though. I mean, why would you change what they're really good at? I don't know.
Because
that's just my opinion.
You make an easy catch harder to catch because you throw it too fast.
Who's great with the long ball? Najee Harris. He is, man. I mean, he's great at the long ball. Like, I know he's a running back, but he's fast, dude.
I digress.
He gets underneath it.
No, it's true. So, Alabama has a crazy stable of offensive playmakers, right? Elite level talent like Henry Ruggs III, Jerry Jeudy, who dropped a lot of balls again, which is weird. Devontae Smith, and of course Najee Harris. You know, last year Josh Jacobs caught more passes than Najee. Najee was sort of to me like O.J. Howard. Just everybody thought he was great, but he really made a lot of mistakes and wasn't running his routes. This year he's having more success. But it's hard for me to ignore that he's doing that against some pretty bad competition. Not to suggest that he's not really good. Just doesn't stand out quite as much as a guy like Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb or Justin Ross, right? Who it sounds like may have been hurt or at least dinged up this past weekend by kind of trying to clinch before you hit the ground or whatever. But again, I digress. Losing to it sucks.
Yep.
Alabama's never had a superstar quarterback that was this elite level competitive. Joe Namath was one thing, but Joe Namath, even he got in trouble and got benched. Tua never did that. He's done nothing but battle. Be a really good example of how you should deal with your own battles. Dude was playing a ukulele while sat up in a hospital bed singing Marvin Gaye, knowing that his college career was probably over and then he might be in really bad physical shape, not knowing what kind of surgery he was going to have, which he's flown an awful lot just the past couple of days to have surgery in hospitals. That's not fun. I don't think it's optimistic just to have a smile on your face. And I heard somebody arguing that, well, it's because he's doped up on drugs. I'm like, okay, even if that's accurate, I'm not happy about it. I've been doped up on drugs and not fun to be around. You know what I'm saying?
Look, Tua's got a really good disposition. So, I mean, even if he has a lot of pain meds, it doesn't matter. He's always sunny no matter what, so it doesn't matter.
We talked about this a little bit before. I don't know what the balance is. We all have risk in our lives. People have died in traffic accidents on the way to football games. I almost hit a deer on my way to give an interview to the Greenville Swamp Rabbits hockey team with a guy with a black eye because he plays hockey. But a deer ran across the front of my car. I think I hit the tail. But that's risk, and you have to balance that risk. How much of that risk is worth it? That's up to you, and I mean only you.
Speaking of risk, what's the risk of taking the under for the Ohio State-Penn State game?
It's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate risk, I guess. I do sincerely think Ohio State's that good. So let's just jump into that. Ohio State 19-point favorite against Penn State in Columbus, hosting game day and the Fox Sports show, whatever that is. We'll get to that debacle in a minute, but
here's what I think, man. Like, I think Ohio State's due for just a little bit less of a great performance because, I mean, they've just given us – I mean, look, they've just given us great performance after great after great after great after great. And at some point, you almost expect there to be some lull. There's got to be a lull somewhere. I mean, not that they're going to lose. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm thinking maybe they only score 14 more than Penn State instead of 19, and that would be a lull. Because I mean, and I think that's fair.
It's not unfair.
It's at
Vegas
Columbus,
kind of wants to support that, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing they're not favored by 25 or 26. Just because
more to that
they've
point,
played so well.
19? Why not 20? Why not 21? Why 19?
I'm sure there's some numbers game involved in there with the betting. Of course, yeah.
I get it. I'm not saying that it's weird or it's trying to trip anybody up. It's designed to make people bet. It always is.
Well, not only that, but you want people betting in ways that benefits the house. They're going to put the numbers the way that benefits the house. That's what they're going to do.
I hear you on Ohio State hasn't stumbled. When Clemson stumbled, they've played against North Carolina on the road. They've played elite level football ever since, almost consistently through every single game.
But that's my point, is that Ohio State's played elite level football all year.
Oh, I get it. I know your point.
They've got to not be great at some point.
What I was going to say is my point was the same for watching other teams who had stumbled. And I've heard suggestions like Notre Dame. They've kind of stumbled a little bit, but I expect them to dominate this next weekend, or Minnesota or something like that. Yeah. And I'm thinking, well, that didn't work out. Notre Dame is maybe a bad example. But I've seen it kind of go the other way. They're due for a really good performance. No. These competitive teams at the top, I have a hard time saying they're overdue for anything except being more competitive and just bludgeoning everybody again and again and again. And so I kind of will I'll believe it when I see it. Baylor, for example, every game they won was a win, and everybody treated every win the same. They won a lot of clunkers, real close in triple overtime, including that, against some not great competition.
Sure.
Oklahoma, not great defense, but they scored, 27 points in the second half to come back, a huge come-from-behind win on the road at Baylor. Does that really answer anybody's questions? Because Oklahoma's still ranked 8th. They don't control their own destiny.
No.
Baylor didn't and arguably shouldn't have. And, I love Matt Rule. I'm happy for the Bears, but they weren't one of the best 4 teams in the country anyway.
No.
And if they had stayed undefeated like we saw in year 1 with Florida State, you do have to – you give them a chance, right? They earned their way in. What I don't want to see and what we're probably going to see anyway, Matt, is somebody get bludgeoned again in round 1 of the playoff. That's okay. It comes with the territory. Hopefully that's not the case. I think we have more competitive teams this year. Baylor isn't one of them. Ohio State is. And until I see otherwise, I'm just going to keep going with it. I think Ohio State's going to absolutely murder the Nittany Lions.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're not going to see LSU in the playoffs.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You're going out on a limb?
Yeah. Because I've looked at
you're done with Ohio State?
Well, I've looked at their – no, I've looked at –
I can tell you're holding on to that one for a minute. That's all.
Well, I just looked at LSU stats defensively, and they're just not good.
Are you suggesting to me right now in the Gray Zone that LSU is going to lose against Arkansas and therefore not control the West?
No way.
You're saying they're going to beat Arkansas but lose to Georgia in the SEC title game?
Correct.
I see.
That's what I'm saying.
I was just teasing, of course.
I mean, listen, granted, I know I'm a Georgia homer, but I'm looking at numbers. And this Georgia defense is just phenomenal. And LSU only scored 23 points against Auburn's defense at LSU. So I just think it's going to be a lot harder for them than people realize to score on Georgia. I just don't think people realize that.
Let's slow down. You got Ohio State not covering against Penn State.
Yeah, I don't think
I got them covering.
I don't think they're.
I know it's going to be rainy and wet. I know people are boycotting game day, which I disagree with, and I love game day, and I don't care what anybody else says. I love Kirk Herbstreit. He's a real model for my own personal growth. I like the way he thinks, acts, feels, and behaves. I don't agree with everything he says, but I can't get mad about it. I hope game day is good in Columbus. I really do. That's it.
Yeah.
And I still think Ohio State bludgeons them. I think Ohio State is that. They're not just elite competitive. They are savages when it comes to doing what they do. They don't want to stop beating everybody to death for 4 quarters.
Right.
And you know what? Maybe that puts guys at risk, right? You know, Trevor Lawrence was playing deep into the third quarter when up 6 touchdowns against unranked Wake Forest without their 3 best players after already having secured the division. There's very little need to play at that point, right? And you're running a risk. How much risk is worth it? I don't know. I don't know the balance. Ohio State seems to throw that caution to the wind, though, and plays their guys deep. You can argue whether or not you should do that, but when people like that do that, I'm going to celebrate it, especially when they're crushing everybody the way Ohio State is. I love it. And I think that's going to happen this weekend against Penn State. And so bad, I think people are going to say, everybody was wrong about Penn State because they're not that good. I think they're still competitive, but Ohio State really is that much better than most out there.
Oh, they are. I mean, the only reason I'm picking not to cover is because they're just due for a lackluster game. They're due.
They had a lackluster quarter against Miami of Ohio.
Stop.
Miami was beating them. Remember the score? It was like 5-0.
It's just like when people texted you and the Citadel was beating Alabama at the half or whatever. It's like, come on, get out of here. Go home.
Actually, it was tied at the half.
Whatever.
I'm with you.
But people still freaked out about that. So, whatever.
Well, and rightly so. That's a good story.
Yeah, until the second half where you just destroy them.
Sure, but you can't win if you're not likely to win, right? And you're more likely to win when you're tied at the half and it looks competitive. And you're not paying attention because it's the Citadel. I get it.
So that's a rainy game.
I love that stuff anyway.
So there's really 2 games.
Michigan State. They were up on Michigan.
Yeah.
7 points. So whatever game you were watching, you got interrupted to say, look at Michigan State beating Michigan. Next thing you know, they go to the half, and it's like, oh, my gosh, it still looks close. Oh, and then they didn't score but 3 more points, and Michigan had their best offensive performance of the year, including 4 touchdowns for Shea Patterson and on and on and on. Almost 400 yards through the air. They didn't do much on the ground. Michigan State isn't a great football team. Michigan isn't a great football team. They're very good, but they had their best game, too, against the rival. So the result doesn't surprise me. Getting excited about it looking close doesn't surprise me either, right? But at the end of the fourth quarter, when the best teams are just dominant, I'm not just not surprised. I celebrate it every single time. I'm always happy to see that stuff. And again, getting back to Tua, that's what you hate to see. That's what you don't want to ever see is some of the best players who behave well not even have that opportunity anymore. Look, I'll keep this real short too, Matt. Alabama has had a lot of problems with penalties, for example, and injuries, and all of these things where it's like you have these great Jerry Jeudy dropped 2 touchdown passes with no coverage against LSU. Any one of them, and Alabama would be ranked number 1 or whatever, right? They're still not that team. They're not one of the 4 best teams in the country for a myriad of reasons. You could say a lot of these penalties were illegitimate. Enough of them are legitimate. They had some really stupid penalties, that including leading up to Mississippi State scoring a touchdown on Alabama. I mean, horrible penalties that were avoidable, unforced, unsportsmanlike. I'm not saying they're dirty. I'm saying these kids, a lot of their team on defense is young and having problems that are eventually fixable. The bottom line is this year there's too much competition. They're not one of the best 4 teams, and that's okay. If they get in anyway, I think it at least won't be boring. I don't think they're getting in regardless. What I do know is what I can't do is get upset about it. I just can't do it. I do think Mac Jones can do what needs to be done because they have those receivers, playmakers. Steve Sarkisian has done a great job as their offensive coordinator. I'm just going to try to enjoy what I can of watching these elite players do whatever they're going to be able to do for the next 2 games, including Western Carolina and Auburn. Who knows if they who they get to play in a bowl after that. But I'm not expecting or hopeful for them to go to the playoff, and I don't think that's bad at all. I don't celebrate it either. I don't think anybody should, because they had the potential to be great, and they just plain aren't. They're very, very good. But they've lost enough to injury alone to not even be the same team. Matt, how many extra points did they miss against Mississippi State? When do I text you for Alabama scoring?
You only text me when they make it.
When we get the extra points, right?
He's like, we made an extra point. Oh, we made another one.
Alabama made 3 extra points in this game.
Watch out.
And I cry a little bit.
Rodrigo Blankenship still has yet to miss an extra point.
He's missed more field goals this year alone than his entire career at Georgia previously. That's another thing that's weird. Okay, again, enough about Alabama. They play Western Carolina. Nobody really cares. We're going to see if Mac Jones can do it. I don't know how much we're actually going to be able to tell. I do think they're going to be able to beat Auburn or at least be competitive in spite of losing Tua is my point, because there's enough other talent, and Auburn is such a question mark. But Auburn, to me, again, like last week.
But playing at Auburn's tough.
Yeah, it's not
really
easy,
tough.
but they're always such an asterisk to the entire sport. The hurry-up crap, the not letting the commercial breaks finish, not letting the cameras start so you can actually see. I said earlier the snap. You were right. You don't even get to see the play sometimes. It's atrocious. It's embarrassing. I think it's disgusting to watch football like that sometimes. And again, I don't complain about it a lot. This is my podcast, so I can say it some. What I will say, I do celebrate the teams that play what I would say is fundamental football that's competitive in any age. Georgia plays that. A lot of people don't like it because it's not sexy. I do. I love good defense, and I'm okay with game management football. I do like to watch touchdowns and RPOs and stuff like that. Georgia doesn't do RPOs. That doesn't mean that they're bad. Maybe they're not ready for this era. I don't know. But, man, I just like their scheme, and I don't like hurry-up, no-huddle bullcrap where you're trying to trick everybody and don't even get to watch it happen. So, go Dogs. I'm glad y'all beat Auburn. I don't hate them, but I don't like the scheme. So
we do have a 2-minute hurry-up that's RPO heavy, but we just don't use it a whole lot. It is very effective, but the problem is it just wears out your defense because your defense has to stay on the field forever because you're so fast offensively that you spend like a minute in a drive instead of spending like 4 or 5 minutes in a drive so that your defense can rest. So, who
was the guy that you had a guy go down in this game?
So Cager came out of the game early with his shoulder still bothering him. What
was the ankle injury?
Well, so we had Trey Hill ankle, the center. His got hurt. Then Ben Cleveland got hurt. Then who was the other one? Crap. It was another guy. It was Cade Mays. So, I mean, the thing is, man, is that those guys are kind of going to be okay, it looks like. If
Good.
not,
Thank
we've
God.
got plenty of linemen in reserve. So, I mean, we're okay.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
I'd rather play with Ben Cleveland and Cade Mays. But,
Sure.
look, if Jamari Sawyer has to get up there and do it, dude, he's a 5-star All-American. He's great. So, I'm not worried about it, They can play with him. I mean, I'd rather have Ben Cleveland, who's like a man mountain out there, sure. But, you got to do what you got to do, And
after Tua's injury, it seemed like every injury that I saw that day was that much harder to stomach.
There's a lot.
This is personal too. I struggle, I think, a lot more than most when I see people get injured. And when I say people, I don't mean just the players. When a staff member, when a referee goes down, when a coach gets hit, when a girl gets hit in the face with a football on the sideline or whatever. I don't handle that stuff well. I used to work in medicine, so I know what it means. I know what it can take. I know how it can ruin your day, your weekend, your week, your month, your season, your year. That girl on the sideline at Auburn who's just sitting there taking pictures
got rocked
and gets absolutely drilled and then wakes up on a stretcher, 18 minutes later. Poor thing. And I was, I don't care. I was crying. I mean, by that time, I couldn't take it anymore, dude. I'd seen enough. And I've been a sideline photographer before. It's hard work. She didn't move, Matt.
I know. She was knocked out. Well, thankfully, she just has a black eye and a concussion. So
yeah, and I'm really
that's the good news.
Matt, she got the shot. Did you see the picture?
Yeah, I've seen the picture. It's a pretty good shot.
It's not the best picture, but knowing what it came from,
yeah, it's pretty good knowing that.
6 foot thick icing on top of this cake. The cake being that she's okay.
Right. Right.
We all take a level of risk with what we're going to be able to contribute to the world at large. Her risk was going on the sideline to take pictures so that Georgia fans and Auburn fans, I guess, can enjoy seeing some really cool stuff. That risk cost her. Pretty tough. Thank God it's
Thank God
not
it didn't
worse.
cost her more. So
You see Hugh Freeze up there in traction trying to coach a game at Liberty on a monitor. Again, I'll keep this real short. I don't know what the balance is for you. Nobody can tell you that. You can't even tell me if it's the right balance,
Look,
but you have to figure it out yourself.
We all accept the risk that we take every day for what we do. So
or
it's just,
or you don't.
Yeah, or
you don't take risks. And guess what? If you don't take risks, if you don't play football, you won't be a great football player.
Well, that and you just won't live. You won't enjoy your life if you never take any risks. So
even your drive to the job that you hate that's nearby is risky. Get struck by lightning, for crying out loud, right?
Yep.
I need to use analogies more like that too, but whatever. I digress. I kind of got spaced out there, Matt, because the injury stuff really trips me up. So anyway, Georgia beat Auburn. I never really thought that game was in doubt. Again, not sexy. Auburn's defense did a pretty good job. Georgia's offensive game plan was more about management than finesse. You have some crazy good playmakers. Jake Fromm is the quintessential Alabama quarterback, frankly, right? He's AJ McCarron. He's Jake Coker.
Yeah.
Sure. I like the guy. I like the way he talks. I like the way he represents Georgia. He's not an elite level quarterback, and that's okay. I had hoped he would develop more, but again, maybe wishful thinking. Maybe that's part of the system too. At this point, it's clear that it is kind of part of the system because the game plan obviously is not sexy in itself.
Well, I will say the one thing I think that's going to change about Georgia in the future is we're pursuing quarterbacks that are nothing like Jake Fromm now. So,
what do you mean nothing like him?
So, like all the quarterbacks we've got on deck that we're trying to pursue are not like they're like Pat White. They're like Chris Leak. They're like who was the guy for Texas years ago? I can't think of his name right now. The guy that won the title.
Oh, Vince Young?
Yeah, Vince Young.
I thought you were going to say Colt McCoy.
No. Like Vince Young, that kind of guy. That's
McCoy
kind
was
of more
terrific,
what we're going after. Because we got Dwan Mathis now. He's like that. We've got Caleb Williams, who we're trying to get from D.C. And we do have Carson Beck, who's coming in, but he's more mobile than Fromm even. So he's more like Fromm than the rest, but he's still mobile, which Fromm's kind of mobile.
I'm going to dovetail a little bit. Do you remember, because y'all kind of stole Fields, do you remember where he was originally committed to?
Penn State.
There you go.
It's kind of weird.
So Justin Fields is now at Ohio State.
Makes me sick.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trigger you, but I didn't want to forget that Fields was a PSU commit. It was a big get for James Franklin at the time to get this kid out of Georgia. He decided ultimately that he wanted to go to Georgia with the new coach, didn't want to leave the state, and eventually decommitted from there. I say decommitted, transferred through the transfer portal, or I guess however it worked. Again, I'm not going to make this more complicated than it is, but now he's at Ohio State going against Penn State. I love the poetic justice there. It's another big reason why I think he's going to want to show out and show up and use his arm against the Penn State secondary. It's been atrocious, and I think that's fair to say. I just got Ohio State way too big. However, without Justin Fields, I still think Georgia is legitimately competitive. I think the thing that triggers a lot of people is they don't look as naturally so much better than everybody else the way that Clemson and Ohio State have consistently every game this season, except for the one game where Clemson sort of struggled. That's it. I love Georgia's defense. I don't love the game plan on offense. The talent's there. Swift is nothing but a joy to watch. Period. What a player.
Yeah, I mean,
to me, I don't want to say throwback, but I could watch that guy play football for any team, any day.
Well, and people forget about Brian Herrien a lot of time at running back, and that kid is just a workhorse.
Who's your true freshman wide receiver?
George Pickens and Dominic Blaylock.
I knew you were going to get the name right away.
Well, there's two. There's George Pickens and there's Dominic Blaylock.
Dominic Blaylock.
He caught the big 51-yarder.
He sounds like he should have his own detective show on A&E or something. Well, what's a great name.
Well, what's fun about Dominic Blaylock for me is that there's Demetrius Robertson as well. My grandparents' last name, my granddad's name was Robertson. My grandmother's maiden name is Blaylock. So Robertson and Blaylock on the field at the same time is great. I love
Blaylock?
Yeah.
Where's that from, by the way?
It's German.
Oh, I'm not going to get off topic, but I can't get upset the way a lot of people are, so I'm not even going to try. If you don't appreciate that, too bad. Listen to a different podcast. It's fine. I think it's okay to be happy with Georgia's success, happy with where they're at, and excited to suggest that I want to see a team like Georgia play teams like LSU and Auburn and A&M and Clemson and Ohio State and Oregon and Utah. Okay, you know what I mean?
I want to see big defense against these offenses. I want to see who really wins that battle.
You're going to see big offenses against your defense too.
Well,
right?
we get to see LSU, in a couple weeks. So
LSU, who doesn't have a great defense.
No, they do not.
And we'll keep this short too. But they allowed 600 yards of offense on the road at Ole Miss. Now, to be fair,
they gave up 38 points to Vandy.
It's okay to say Ole Miss isn't good, right? It is, but they have run against everybody. Okay,
Sure.
They've been able to run on the ground. The irony is that's their strength has been passing for the last decade, if you can call it strength. Some years they haven't been strong passing either. But it wasn't really that big of a surprise. What is a big surprise is how much they were able to run. Look, LSU had a clunker and still won on the road by 3 touchdowns, Matt. So I think it's a little bit of an imbalance if you didn't watch the game outright to suggest that LSU isn't elite competitive. What they're not is an elite competitive defense. It's not even close.
And what's the old adage? Defense wins championships,
brother.
That's
oh,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Adage? No. Words to live by,
you
brother.
look at most, if not all of Alabama's national titles, they've all come in on the back of great defenses. You look at that 2011 defense; it was just unbelievable. It was a defense for the ages. It was.
It's ironic that's the Alabama LSU game in 2011 is the reason why we have the playoff, because the defenses were so good and we thought the offenses were so bad that we just couldn't take it anymore. Now it's the opposite direction, and all we can do is say how bad those two specific teams are on defense. It's not illegitimate. But are you not entertained? I'm not sure which one I would rather have. Personally, I think it's more.
I want defense.
Yeah, I would want defense
every day.
But I'm also conflicted because everybody else seems to want offense. So what do? You want balance.
Because if you score points, you might win. But if the other guy doesn't score, you will win.
Okay. So what you're seeing now, again, I call this a golden age of the sport.
Right.
But it's still rare where you have a team that's that good on both sides of the ball at an elite level with depth. And right now, it's still, in all sincerity, feels like it's Clemson and Ohio State and kind of everybody else this year. Okay. Thank you for being here. We're going to run through some of these real quick. Ohio State, Penn State, we got through. Ohio State, I think, is going to blast them. Clemson is on a bye week. Does South Carolina play this week?
I think they're on a bye, too, I think.
Florida hosted Missouri.
No, they did that already.
Was it not Missouri?
No, they already did Missouri, I think.
This past weekend. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was just going to talk about that game real quick.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the most difficult to watch games I've ever seen.
Painful.
Missouri's drive chart was like punt, interception, turnover, punt, drop ball, punt. Like, it was really, it set the sport back on offense for about 30 years. It was bad. It was hard to watch.
Missouri's good defensively, but offensively, they're just anemic as all get out.
Okay, well, Florida wasn't exactly doing great in itself.
No.
Right? Versus what I was trying to suggest earlier about
Missouri's
LSU.
got good defense.
Now this weekend, Georgia hosts Texas A&M. The Aggies play Clemson at Clemson, Alabama at home, Auburn at home, Georgia on the road. Then they got LSU. We thought at the beginning of the season Texas A&M would win one of these games, and what would that mean? How big of a story would it be? It looks like they're not going to win any of them. They're not winning against the Dogs this weekend, right?
No.
How many points is Georgia going to win by in the rain?
I think it's me. My guess right now is 31-13 Georgia. So we'll see. That's my guess. I don't know.
She sounds pretty. I'm trying to think real quick. I know you got to go. Who else do we got this weekend that really... Look, this is a clunker weekend. Next weekend
it's really
is rivalry.
Just Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas A&M.
I'm sure I'm forgetting something.
I'm sure there is, but...
Furman was going to secure the Southern last weekend and got blasted at home.
I'm sure there's some Pac-12 game we're missing.
They somehow managed to find a makeup game this weekend, which I celebrate. I know a lot of people say, you can't do anything about your schedule. I'm like, well, they got a bad team, but they got the team. They made it work. So, F you once, F you twice, F you all the time. Go Dins. Go get them. I guess that's a consolation prize. I'm trying to think. Okay, Boston College at Notre Dame. Boston College needs to win the next two to become bowl eligible. I think it's the next one of the next two, but they're not beating Notre Dame. Notre Dame is not elite, but this is the best team Brian Kelly's ever had.
They're good.
And I wish, with playing 5 ACC games, I wish they were somehow eligible for the ACC championship game.
At least it'd be better than whatever Clemson's going to get.
Maybe Virginia Tech, maybe Pitt. I'm not
As
sure
if
we
it
know
matters.
yet. Well, those teams have been somewhat of a competitive team before, and it wouldn't again.
But
Clemson,
it doesn't matter.
Clemson is so elite competitive. I don't think it matters. I think they would destroy Notre Dame too. But it would be something that we could use for highlight film, something to give. Like Travis Etienne is breaking crazy stats. Again, you can say about not great competition, especially this year. Sure, I get it. It's true. It's bad. The ACC is really, really bad this year, and it's okay to say.
And Clemson people, don't be insulted by that. It's not your fault. The ACC sucks. You're doing your best.
Most of the people are aware that the league, not just the league being down, but the teams that Clemson has gotten to play this year in the league have not been great. North Carolina's kind of trending up, but I'm not sure. I'll sort of believe it when I see it.
And don't get me wrong. Clemson is elite, and they're very good, but you have to admit their stats are slightly inflated by the ACC being so bad.
I'm not trying to say it's all about money. Dabo Swinney helped get people to spend money on Clemson for facilities, to get recruits in there and all this stuff. The reason why I bring that up is because the ACC network is brand new, and it's going to give all of these schools extra millions of dollars. I'm hopeful that's going to change quickly. I don't think it's going to be quickly. You know what, Matt? Let's just get you out of here. I can tell it's time for a diaper change. Thanks for being here, buddy. Congrats on the win over Auburn. I'm glad y'all won. A lot of people were telling me, I don't know why you expect Auburn to win. Winning by 1 touchdown seemed a little disingenuous. I thought Auburn was not the better football team. Georgia clearly was, and the score makes it look a little bit more suggestive than I'm comfortable with.
It's just tough to beat in Auburn. It's tough to play at Auburn. It really is.
Auburn does have a competitive defense outright, period. Deal with it, y'all. Georgia doesn't have a sexy offense. Oh, guess what? Those things go hand in hand, and you didn't get the kind of football game that you might like to expect from a team like Clemson, who's up 6 touchdowns on Wake Forest in the first half. So, actually, it took until the third quarter, but whatever. My point was they were still playing the starters. And Clemson is that good. I'm terrified to see those guys play so deep sometimes, but you're going to beat the Aggies and going to celebrate it, and maybe nobody else will, and that's okay. So the Aggies are going to be ranked for all of 6 days, and then they're going to be unranked again, and then they're going to play LSU, and they're going to get less likely to be ranked. Good luck. I'm pulling for the Dogs over LSU because I kind of, again, favor defense. And I don't think either one of those teams is necessarily going to be able to beat to beat Ohio State or Clemson. I think it looks like it's trending towards those two teams just having a death match. But I'll celebrate it if it's Georgia, man. I really will. I'm hopeful y'all can get a little bit sexier on offense, though. That's all I'm going to say. And you know what?
Just got to grow up a little bit.
Alabama, so much has happened this year, especially with injury and not just to it all. Not one of the best 4 teams in the country. It sucks because you could have been, and we have to deal with that, and that's okay to say. If the same thing happened to Clemson, I'd be doing the same thing. If it happened to Oregon, I'd be doing the same thing, except I didn't expect them to be where they are. They are literally competitive. So is Utah, and one of those 2 teams is getting in above Alabama, and I celebrate that. I'm excited about it. I still don't think either of those 2 teams would compete very well at all against Ohio State or Clemson, but we'll see. In the meantime, enjoy these last 2 weeks of the regular season, y'all. Just savor them. And
it's almost over. It's kind of crazy.
You got anything else you want to say before you get out of here?
It's just been a really fast season.
It has, hasn't it?
It's faster than I can remember.
I think that's another reason why these... Look, I was watching Pac-12 After Dark. I was watching SoCal. I don't really love SoCal at all, so it's got nothing to do with that. But I saw another guy get hurt. This was literally after midnight.
Stop doing this to yourself.
I love football, man. I can't stop watching. But it tripped me up, and I caught a tear rolling down the cheek. And these guys go out there and battle for us to have fun watching them do it. So do it. Just if those guys are willing to try to give you a good game, then you need to try at least a little bit harder to have fun doing it. That's all I'm going to say. Be less upset, be less mean, be less rude. I get rivalry stuff, but enjoy the game more deliberately because you heard it here on the Gray Zone with Matt McGahee at King Tut Grill.
Go Dogs.
Go to iONGreenville, do your picks. Go to FeckGreenville.com, read the magazine, or find an adult to read it to you. And go Dogs. Roll Tide. Go Tigers. F you all the time. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Matt. I owe you one.
Thanks, man.
See you, brother.
Not red, not blue, not white.